Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. I've been a huge fan of Captain Underpants since I was 6 years old when the first books came out. I still have a collection of them sitting on my bookshelf in my room, and they were a big part of me reading as a child. And I was super excited when finally, after 10 years, they're actually making a movie out of these children's books. And I was very pleasantly surprised by this film. This was directed by David Soren, who does wonderful things with how he tells this story and is so true and feels like a lot of this was ripped right out of the books with the flipomania and that way of showing the action in this film and the different ways of animating different storytelling devices. That was the most interesting and biggest standout thing of this film was how the story was told. And I thought that was so much fun and done in such a great way. And the tone, it is very thorough tone all the way through and does a fantastic job of keeping that really, really goofy and yet clever tone throughout this film. You get plenty of potty jokes, but enough where this film realizes is like, yeah, we're shooting you on the lowest level of humor, but we know it, and we know you know it, and we're gonna have some fun with that. And I thought that was really cool that they did that in this film. I am gonna say this film is definitely geared towards children, and there was a little lacking of at certain points the anchor to keep the adults engaged. But overall, this film was well paced. Never it never lets up, and I never felt bored during it. There were scenes that went a little too far with the children's humor and were really gearing towards children to the point where it kind of took me out of the movie. And I wasn't necessarily bored. It was more, okay, this has gone too far. Let's go on to the next scene. Let's move along. And the writer was Nicholas Stoller, and you are a great writer when it comes to comedy for children's films, and you did Storks, which I absolutely loved. I thought the humor in that was fantastic, and they did some great humor in this as well. Yeah, you get the goofy potty jokes, but there's some also great, clever jokes throughout this film, and some shamelessly like wink wink kind of puns in the film that I thought were really fun. And in general, there's some laughs in this that were done in such a clever way using editing of shots and editing between the scenes, and there'd be a joke set up. It's like ha 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 funny. Cuts to teacher, cuts back to kids, and they're completely still. And I don't know why. The way that they were able to do that in this film made it so funny, and using editing as a comedic device, which is actually something that say Edgar Wright does in a lot of his films, and that is a higher level form of comedic storytelling when it comes to film. So there's some great sight gags in this film, and overall it was pretty endearing. I enjoyed these characters interacting with each other. The music, which was done by Theodore Shapiro, was very endearing and had a wholesome, childlike feel to it. And there's some popular music that was in this film, but specifically when they had the score, and it felt like I felt like a kid again. I felt like I was in a kid's adventure, and I felt engrossed in that adventure, which was fantastic. And I was in a theater seriously full of children. And yeah, I was laughing at some things that they weren't laughing at, and when they were really laughing, I'm like, oh God, please bring this movie down a couple of notches. But in general, I thought this was a really well done film, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. The voice talent in this film, Kevin Hart, Thomas Middleditch do a great job with George and Harold, and they're just fun, endearing young kids, and they do such a great job of making they don't feel like adults, like these children were written as adults. No, they feel like kids, and they do a fantastic job of that vocal performances to make them feel like kids. And you also have Ed Helms, who does kind of the dual role of, hey, I'm Principal Krupp, and I'm also Captain Underpants. And he really does a great job of splitting them and really making them two very different characters and feel like different characters. What he does with his voice and what he does with his how he says his lines is very great, and I thought he was actually very funny. Nick Kroll does his thing. He puts on a crazy voice with Professor Poopy Pants, and you found motivations to why he wanted to do the things he does. But he was also written as a completely over top villain, which completely fits in this film because that's Captain Underpants. And I thought he had his moments. I felt like he might have been could have been a little funnier, but I enjoyed the performance overall. And Jordan Peele does a fantastic job as one of the other kids, really slipping into the performance. Like, wait a minute, that was Jordan Peele? Holy crap! Because like the rest of them, besides Nick Kroll, because he really goes full blown, completely different voice. But you could still hear the Ed Helms. You can easily hear the Thomas Middleditch and Kevin Hart in there. But Jordan Peele slips into that very well and plays a completely not funny character because he doesn't get humor. Which was like, that was a fun role for Jordan Peele to be able to play. Overall, I really enjoyed this. This is probably the second best animated film I've seen this year, just behind the Lego Batman movie. I really enjoyed Captain Underpants, and honestly, if you grew up reading those books and you're a 25-year-old like I am, and really enjoyed them, then I would totally say, go out, check this out. Hey, it's been 18 years since I started first reading those books, and I still really, really enjoyed this movie. And if you bring kids, they're going to love it too. I'm going to give Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, a B.